So it has finally happened, what we anticipated since the acquisition of Red from Nikon, and that is the fact that there is now a cinema version Red camera with the Nikon Z mount. And that was what was announced today, along with some other interesting features. Today I'm going to talk about my thoughts about the announcement, as well as what does it mean in terms of the Red ecosystem, benefits, as well as some trade-offs, but also what does this mean going forward with other mounts such as the RF mount. All that and more in today's video. What's going on, everybody? My name is James Jackson. If you're new here, I do tips, tricks, news, and reviews for the film and video making industry. So if this is content that you like, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can stay up to date on all the content going forth. And if you enjoy the content here, think about becoming a member, helping supporting us. That money comes directly into the channel, which I can get access to gear and stuff that I can provide to you. So again, if you are interested in becoming a member, definitely check it out. We also got exclusive content up there as well. Anyways, let's talk about Red and Nikon. Basically the announcement that they're basically re-releasing the Komodo X as well as the Red V-Raptor X now with the Nikon Z mount. And you can basically go ahead, if you have a previous Red Komodo X or a Red V-Raptor or V-Raptor X, you could basically do an upgrade path for somewhere between about $1,600 or for an additional fee at the very least. Or if you have an older Red camera, you can trade it in to get some sort of discount or cost reduction on these newer models if you were still holding on to older Red cameras. Interestingly enough, the original Red Komodo has no upgrade path whatsoever, at least according to CVP. By the way, if you're looking for more exclusive details in terms of what to expect with these, I would definitely say go check out CVP. They put out an excellent video. This is more so my thoughts of what does this actually mean for the industry, what does this mean for Red in general, as well as where does I think Nikon is planning to take Red into the future. Obviously, the big thing that's about the difference about this is the fact that there is now a Z mount or Z mount, for those of us that's not American, option for the Red cameras. And there is so many different benefits that actually happen that is for the Z mounts. In terms of the ecosystems, I'll be honest, Nikon's lens mount system wasn't one that I was really fond of. I'll just being particularly honest. I just didn't feel it was great for photos, but in terms of video options, it was sort of limited. So I was always curious about how this works. But since I made those initial announcements when Red was acquired by Nikon, essentially there's been some products and some new technology that's been introduced, particularly a adapter that allows you to connect Z mount to Sony E mount. Because Z mount has the shortest flange distance, theoretically you can put even other mirrorless mounts onto this camera, which means that these new Red cameras are arguably the most versatile camera system on the market. Let me explain. For one of the things that I've always fought and argued for was the fact that for me, deciding cameras going forward is the ability to flex creativity and the ability to basically not be held back to a single ecosystem. That is something that up until very, very recently, that was sort of a system that has always been an issue, was that if you were to commit to Sony E mount, you had to commit to E mount glass, even though it has to be Sony, or with Canon it was RF. You had to commit to those or adapt to like older lenses with like the EF. Or you can go to a more universal mount like the PL system, and those systems. But in terms of going from one mirrorless mount to another, that really wasn't an option. And now that is the case with these new Red cameras, with the new KX and the new Red V-Raptor X. And that is an amazing deal. So now, if you're someone who is currently a Sony shooter that has always thought about getting one of these Red cameras, and you're like, man, I gotta sell all these glass, you don't have to. You can keep your glass, you can trade in your older gear for something and get one of these newer KX models or these new X model cameras, and essentially you can just use your old lenses. You just need to get an adapter, which I believe most of these adapters are not too expensive. I think the cheapest ones are like around 99 bucks, but if you want that full electronic flexibility, which you definitely want given the features that are in the Red cameras, you know, you may have to want to go with some of those that are a little bit pricier up, but that's perfectly fine. But the point is that you're not bound to the Z mount ecosystem. And as Nikon grows that ecosystem, you can go in and pick. The point is that you have options. So I could go mirrorless. Technically, you could still, if somebody builds it, I just don't think it's built yet. If someone builds a Z mount to RF mount adapter, which I truly honestly believe that is coming. What if it comes directly from Nikon or some sort of third-party source? That is yet to be determined, but I'm almost certain, especially given with this acquisition, someone's going to come with an RF mount for other reasons as well, which I'll get to at the end of the video. But you could then also look at L mounts or even go into something like Micro Four Thirds, because their flange distance are not as small as it's not as short as the Z mount. The Z mount is the shortest of all flange distance, which means your options in terms of what you want to do as a creative shooter is limitless. And that is always the biggest thing for me as a shooter, is the fact that you don't limit. You get to go with so many options that you can do as much as possible. So to me, these cameras got a whole new breath of life now to the fact that they've got this Z mount body. The other cool thing with the Z mount is that there's certain things that Nikon has been really good at that's now being brought into these camera bodies. One thing is their linear motor system, which I will admit is definitely one of the better versions. I personally thought Panasonic is still, to me, the best version with their linear motor options, but Nikon is not too far off with that as well. So being able to get the type of focal throw that you want, and you can set that in there, that is great. Now, obviously, going native Z mounts is going to be the best option in this case, but from what I've heard and read, that you will be able to use some adapters. If you use certain adapters for E mount, you can. Again, let's hope that RF and L mount versions of these come too. So again, this now becomes an absolute monster. Now, the other thing we need to talk about is the RF bodies. Now, Nikon, aka Red, have stated they are still going to continue supporting those RF mount bodies for the time being, which I expected that. However, for those of you that have followed my channels ever since I posted a video about the Red acquisition, I have been saying that they will eventually stop supporting the RF mount ecosystem, partly because, again, Canon is their biggest competitor. It just doesn't make sense that they are continue to have cameras that support that has these full-on supports for their competitors. But also, I feel that way even now, so because there's going to be adapters being made, because you can adapt them to RF. So, and then that way, the responsibility of compatibility falls onto third parties instead of having resources and money reserved to continue to support RF mounts ecosystem. They're going to continue for now, but I've said in about 16 to 24 months, they'll slowly start to ease out of supporting the RF mount ecosystem. I'm just saying, if you are an RF shooter, you should be looking towards the horizon, because to me, the writing is on the wall that they're going to move away from RF support sometime in the future. Now, and also, let's just keep in mind, these aren't new cameras. There's no new specs. These are essentially just the same body cameras. They're great cameras, but they're the same bodies as before. They're just now in Z mount, which again is great, and I'm really happy to do that. But I know some people are just already posting videos. It's like, this is game change. These new cameras are going to change this. And in a sense that are they because of their versatility? Yes. But let's pump the brakes in terms of, hey, this is a brand new camera. We should be hyping this up. Don't buy into the hype trade. Only get camera. I'm going to say this throughout 2025. No matter what camera comes out, make sure it's something that it fits in your workflow, but also can you afford to purchase it. If you have the workflow and the resources to afford to purchase it, and you can afford it, go for it. I'm not going to stop you on that. If you can't, there's no need to rush. Don't need to rush. In fact, if what you're doing right now with the gear you have right now is making you money right now, I say hold on to that until, because look, the landscape right now, just in terms of a socioeconomic state, is not necessarily great. So trying to put yourself in debt is never a good idea at this point in time. However, I can still say this is a very, very nice pull from Nikon and Red, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how people use these newer versions in their camera workflows. But this is it for me, guys. I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know. Leave your comments down below. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.